Welcome to the Journey 2020. I say it must be a Monday around 7 p.m. That's what we normally do at this time on a Monday. I'm Charles Morris, and that's what we do. We come to you on Mondays, generally around 7 p.m., ever since 2013. Anyway, hope you had a good weekend. Man, we've been having some great weather. I've been checking out the weather across the country, and it's been a little crazy, but that's how it is this time of the year. We're doing the holiday season. I hope that some of you have lost some of the weight for Thanksgiving, and I hope some of you are thinking about trying to lose some of the weight for Thanksgiving and prepping up for Christmas, right? And the New Year's Eve party. So I do hope all is safe and sound. And I do hope that you're still wearing your mask, you're still doing your proper distancing, and still doing what needs to be done to take care of yourself and your family. Well, listen, I had a very busy weekend. Since 2013, I've been working with the Black Caucus to the help of Commissioner Ames, who introduced me to Jill Lewis and the Democratic Black Caucus of Florida. And I've been working with them since 2013. And I always say, you know what, I wish I had a connection to the Republican Party to be able to do some of the things I do with the Democratic Party, because I kind of get an insight on the candidates and hear them speak and the ideas and stuff like that. And the funny thing is that a lot of times during the meetings, because I'm not part of the caucus, they hire me to do what I do. And so when I hear some of the things that they're addressing, it's really interesting, because it's kind of hard to believe that they're fighting the fight that they're fighting. So that's why I wish that I was in some of the meetings to hear what the Republicans are saying, because I'm like, really? You got to fight that fight? So that's another show, but I just think it's interesting that, and I'll say it like this, which is a different show, man. The devil is busy, and he's busy. And some of these things that we're fighting, because it's like what we have come to in our country when it comes to the Republican Party, it's like it's scary. It was funny because last week I was riding down I-4. This was like maybe last Thursday. What's the day? Monday? It was like last Thursday. And I'm riding down I-4, and I look over, and there's a white truck. And on the side, the guy had written out in tape. The tape was about like that thick. It was about like that thick, right? So he had written out in tape, Trump won. I'm like, won what? But no, the show. And I'm like, really? Really? And it's just like, what have we come to? I'm cutting myself off because I'm like, that's not what I wanted to talk about. But anyway, it's really scary, the times that we're living in. But during the conference or the meeting that they had, I did stream what I'm going to show you today. I'm restreaming it because I think it's so important, because I streamed it live. But I wanted to tell you what it's officially called. Okay, they had a kind of like a table discussion at the Rosen. And I think it's serious because of the times that we're in. And man, like I said, I wish that I could be there at some of these meetings like I'm at with them, just to hear the discussions of what they're saying, because it's almost like you have to be evil. I don't know. I'm going to leave that alone. But anyway, the round table of discussion was called Let's Talk, Real Issues, Real Impact, Real Action Needed. Looking at my notes. And so I think it's worth repeating. And also stick around, not this week, not next week, but the following week. You know, Val Demings was there this past weekend. So I'm going to play her speech and what she had to say. Some powerful stuff. So stick around for that. And I hope that you stick around to hear what they had to say during their little round table, which is called Let's Talk, Real Issues, Real Impact, Real Action Needed, this past weekend at the Rosen Center. Yeah. Yeah, the Rosen Center, because it was at both places, you know. So anyway, let's check them out, and please pay close attention. And you're here on some of the real issues that we're facing in some challenging times that's coming up in the year 2022 and the year 2024. Okay, let's check it out.
Good afternoon, Democrats. How are we doing? It's good to see so many people in person, and it's good to be here with the air conditioning working, because I've been in some of y'all breakouts, and it's been a little hot. But we're going to go ahead and get this thing started. And Jill, I want to make sure everyone sees Jill, because when I cut you off, it ain't my fault, it's hers, because she's the timekeeper. So I want to go down the line if we can and just have the panel introduce themselves. I think you have 30 seconds, if you can, to introduce yourself real quick. We'll start with you, Representative.
Hi everyone, my name is Angie Nixon. I'm the state representative from Duval County. I also serve as the Florida Democratic Party's political director. I come from the movement. I came from SEIU. I am the daughter of a union member, CWA. I have been organizing in the community for over 10 years, and I consider myself a public servant.
Good afternoon, everyone. Come on, y'all. Good afternoon. My name is Michele Rayner. I'm a state representative, District 70, so it is Panelist, Manatee, Sarasota, and Hillsborough counties. And I am a civil rights attorney, and I'm also someone who is a product of the movement. My parents integrated the University of South Florida, and I believe if you're looking for me, you'll find me with the people.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shevrin Jones, and I have the pleasure of serving as state senator for Senate District 35. I do want to start off by wishing a happy Founders Day to my brothers of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. I have the very good pleasure of serving in the legislature for the past 9 years, just got into the Florida Senate, and it's a good pleasure to be here with my colleagues, and so we can get to some solutions and how we can continue to move this movement forward. Thank you all so much.
Good afternoon. I'm going to stand just because this podium cuts me off, but I'm Fentrice Driskell. I have the honor of serving as the state representative for Florida House District 63 in North Tampa and North Hillsborough County. It's a delight to be here with all of you. I also serve as policy chair of the Florida House Democratic Caucus, and recently was elected as Democratic Leader Designate-elect, and I'll be the first Black woman to serve in that capacity. Yes, so excited to step forward, Representative Driskell. My name is Eskamani. Welcome to Orange County. We are honored to have you with us today. I am proud to serve District 47 in the state legislature. That includes the city of Orlando, Belle Isle, Edgewood, Winter Park. We flipped this seat from red to blue in 2018. We kept it in 2020. And I'm proud to serve in the Florida legislature. I worked at Planned Parenthood of Southwest and Central Florida before I ran for office. And I serve as the ranking member in 2 different committees, including Ways and Means. So I love to talk about corporate accountability, corporate taxes, making sure everyone pays their fair share. Thanks for having us today.
Well, hello, Black Caucus of Florida. You are like a part of my family, and so it is wonderful to be back with you. I'm Chris King. I had the honor in 2018 to run with Andrew Gillum to try to change the state. We fell a little bit short, but it wasn't because of your support, which we felt in droves. And it's an honor to be with this all-star panel of stars today.
Thank you. I'm going to take the first point of privilege to do something I was asked to do, and that's to bring up one of the nominees for governor here in 2022, and that's Governor Congressman Charlie Crist.
Well, is it afternoon yet? It is. Good afternoon. How y'all doing? You ready for a great weekend here with a bunch of Florida Democrats? Me too. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. I truly appreciate it, Senator Shev. How are you? You know, This caucus is critically important to the future of our state and our nation. I know that you all know that, and I want you to know that I know it. And I want you to know that what a pleasure it has been for me to be a public servant here in Florida and to work side by side with some wonderful people. But for the first time in my career as a member of Congress, I have gotten to work side by side with another great Floridian, in my humble opinion, our next U.S. Senator Val Demings. All right? So listen, we have a long relationship, and it's important, and its roots are deep. And I treasure our relationship. And Chris King, my brother, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. The great campaign you and Andrew ran 4 years ago. And I don't know if anybody spoke in more black churches than Chris King than anybody on the planet. God bless you, my friend. And thanks for the hard work in the legislature. You're not going to dead. Keep doing it. Keep fighting. Keep pushing. That's what this is about. It really comes down to one word: respect. From the current office holder in Tallahassee, we get no respect. And day after day, he breaks our hearts. Now he wants some kind of a governor, militia, whatever. I don't know what he's doing. He's crazy, you know? But what he's not doing is what's right. And doing what is right means that everybody counts, everybody matters, and everybody has somebody that they can count on who's got their back. When I was your governor before, a lot of Republicans told me that former felons shouldn't have their rights restored. And I told them, hell no. We're going to restore their rights, and we did. And we got the voting rights back for 155,000 former felons. That's just a taste of what we'll do in a second Christ administration. I'm going to give it back to the boss behind me. Thank you so much for everything you do, my friend. This guy, you know, he's got some great lineage. You know, his father was on the Florida Supreme Court, in fact, Chief Justice of the Florida Supreme Court. Shaw's the man. God bless you, man.
Let's get to these questions while we can. I know we're limited in time. This first one is going to be for, if I can direct it to Representatives Eskamani and Rayner. These are serious issues. Black people, of course, face many issues in healthcare. Disparities from access to care, mother and infant mortality rates, inappropriate and often non-existent issues, treatment of pain, chronic pain, and morbid disease. Those in our community who are black and who also identify within the LGBTQIA+ community face outright harassment, biases, refusal of treatment. How can we combat this problem, but within the entire community, and also affecting those who identify as black and LGBTQIA+?
Well, thank you, Representative Eskamani, and let me make sure I look at the timekeeper, Jesus. So I think there's a couple of things that I think that it's about building collective power, building collective political power. You know, most of us on this dais are elected, and you know, folks look to us and say, it's with you, and I look back and say, no, it's with y'all. And so for me, I think that we have to be very intentional about how we build collective power within our communities. That's number one. Number two, I think that we have to have difficult conversations among us, among our churches, among our community centers, and what does that look like? And three, I also think that when we're thinking about building that collective power, having those difficult conversations, what policies can we push for, not only on a local level, not only on a state level, but on a federal level that can address this. And I think that also for those of us who are able to fund candidates, who are able to fund organizations, who are able to do those kinds of things, we need to put our money where our mouth is, right? We need to put our money back into the community, because a lot of times we can sit on the House floor or the Senate floor and talk good, but if we don't actually do the thing and do the work and empower the people on the ground, it matters not what we say in the Florida legislature if we're not empowering the people to do the same and make those moves. And I got 10 seconds and I'm a good church girl, so I know when to shut up. Go ahead, Representative Eskamani.
Thank you so much, Rayner. And I would take a point of personal privilege. I have in the room today our state attorney from District or Circuit 9, Monique Borrell, here in the back. Grounded in who you elect to serve. And to be clear, as a person of color, I to share our values, right? So we gotta be real about that. I see Rep. Woodson in the place, I see Rep. Fentrice in the space, and these are some folks that, you know, they come from the community, they worked in the community, and they understand the daily struggles because they have experienced struggle themselves. And so we can't just talk about these issues from a point of statistics. We have to talk about the fact that my constituents have this experience, and here's why when I walk into the Florida House, I don't compromise on those values. Because so many of these issues are also grounded in issues of justice. And issues of justice have economic ties. You know, we talk about mass incarceration. It's also tied to the fact that we have private prisons in this state. We talk about healthcare disparities. Not every person can afford healthcare. Insurance companies don't let you have access. So we have to be critical about, for example, folks who can't afford energy and monopoly utility companies that dictate the increase of rates with a PSC that is a rubber stamp for utility companies. So, like what Rayner said, we have to educate ourselves and educate our communities because a lot of these problems are systemic. Yes, it's about elections, but also an election is not the key to collective liberation. All of us are.
Thank you for that. Before we get to the next question, I do want to recognize the FDP chair, Manny Diaz, is in the house in the back. If you'll wave, and I see two mounts. Everybody calls two mounts. Let me get to the second question. This is for Reps. Driskell and Angie Nixon. Voting rights are paramount to the black community. The latest round of Republican voter restriction laws directly impact our ability to vote. What ideas do you have to drive voter turnout across the state and overcome these obstacles?
Hello, I'll take that. I think the main idea would be to not just pop up last minute. Right? Oftentimes we parachute in last minute and we have to stay involved in these communities year round. As a community organizer, I was lucky enough to unseat an incumbent, someone who they said was unable to be beaten. And the way that I did that was, of course, by driving out turnout and having been involved in the community year round, right? And speaking to issues that people cared about year round, right? So one of the things that I'm doing right now is working, you know, there's an affordable housing crisis, right? People don't know how to navigate that. There's a lot of red tape as it relates to trying to get access to the rental assistance and funding like that. So I'm hosting workshops to plug people into these type of services and things like that, right? Another thing is affordable access to things like affordable childcare, right? So working with different groups and plugging people into that type of thing. And so also, you know, we can't just show up and tell people all the time, just vote, just vote, just vote, right? Like sometimes, you know, as black people, like we like to laugh, we like to have fun, right? And so making things fun for people to come out to, building relationships with them, again, year round, so that, you know, they can trust you. That's the main thing. People don't trust a lot of the politicians that come into the community, right? And that goes back to it. We shouldn't be considered politicians. We should be considered public servants. And when we do the work year round, they'll consider us that, and they will come out in droves.
Thank you. And so I would summarize that by saying we need 3 E's. It's education, it's engagement, and it's excitement. On the education piece, we all know that Senate Bill 90, does everybody know Senate Bill 90 passed this past legislative session? That is making it harder to vote by mail, it's making it harder for people to have to show more identification. All these people not have access to vote by mailboxes, which were critical for us during the pandemic. They're trying to make it harder for us to vote. If it wasn't so powerful, there wouldn't be so many barriers. So we need to educate our community on what it takes. I talked about this a little bit this morning. They can enact laws that make it harder for us, but we can organize around that. So as the organizers in the room, we need to make sure that we are prepared. No, you can't give water and food to people at 150 feet. Give it to them at 151. Don't let that keep you downtrodden. You're smarter than that. The engagement piece, and Rep. Nixon covered this really well. We do not engage with voters year-round. We just don't do it. We have to do it. We need to learn the lessons of Georgia. I'm going to be very honest with you. 2022 might be a tough year for us. We got redistricting, and there's a lot of things in the works, and then we're going to have 10 years to figure out if we can do in 10 what it took Georgia to do in 20. I believe we can do it if we engage voters year-round. And the last piece is excitement. We got to give people something to be excited about. We have the best policies and the best candidates, but really communicate that message well. So I want to invite all of you, actually we're having a messaging training in this room today at 2 p.m. to talk about how we can engage with voters and get them excited about what we have to offer as Democrats.
Stop parachuting into the last minute. That's what you just heard. I want to now ask my buddy who I can testify did go to a bunch of lectures, because I was there with you, Chris. I want to ask you, Representative Nixon, this question. We know how important faith is in Florida, and especially to us, Black community. What are ways to unite and utilize clergy and faith members to increase participation in voter registration and getting out the vote? You have been nominated to speak for faith, brother. Want to do it?
Oh, he will do it. Can you repeat the question? Because that wasn't my question I was assigned to.
Well, you're going to get me in trouble. We know how important faith is in Florida, especially to the Black community. What are ways to unite and utilize clergy and faith members to increase participation in voter registration and getting out the vote?
Well, first of all, I think that we have to be very clear on one thing. That a lot of times, and I'm going to say it, we have to respect the church. Because a lot of times, the party in coming into our churches to be the savior during election time, but we do not engage with the church year-round. And it's also important that our pastors, that they reject the notion that when individuals come, ask them, where have you been all year? And we do have the most consistent group of people who come to the churches every Sunday. Yes, that's one thing. But what are we doing? Are we allowing our pastors to understand the type of bills that are coming in the House or in the Senate? Are we utilizing that opportunity that after church that we're engaging people after they're walking out, that we're engaging them to show them? So we have to make sure that we're doing our part, but it's a two-way street that we have to do it on.
No, I hear you, but you keep that mic, I hear you. And I think also, we as politicians need to be careful who we bring to the church. You can't bring everybody. Everybody doesn't deserve that access. And we have to do a good job vetting because people trust us when we bring people to the churches. Go ahead, Chris King.
You know, I'd approach it from the sense that, there's what we can do for the church. There's also what the church and faith communities can do for us. And I think I've probably spoken as many churches as anyone in recent Florida politics, but it's because it was my favorite time of the campaign week. Not because of what I went and did there, but what I went and learned there. And, I think one of the things we Democrats often struggle with is authenticity with faith communities, right? In other words, these pastors, men and women across the state of Florida, don't just want you to show up on Sunday morning, but they want to be in a relationship with you. If you saw my phone of contacts, you would see pastor this, pastor this, pastor this, that remain my friends and advocates and champions. I would say that the two most powerful things that sustained me, and I think Andrew would say the same, in 18, throughout a very difficult and challenging 18 months, was the African-American Black church that protected us and defended us like no other source in the state of Florida. And on a fun level, gospel music, which every day was a part of filling our tank so we could go out there and do what the voters of Florida wanted us to do.
Correct. I'm going to ask a question now that we can just go ahead and ask it. We got FTP in the room and DC's in the room, but this question needs to be asked because we talk about it a lot. In your opinion, I'm speaking to everyone on the panel, and I want everyone to have an answer if they can. What are one or two areas that you see could use improvement when it comes to the relationship with FTP, local DECs, and Black voters across the state? And Shevrin, we'll start with you because I want to say especially Black men, because we got a little Trumpy last term. I want to ask you, what can we do better with regard to Black men in that relationship?
Thank you. I'm sorry, y'all. I neglected y'all over in the corner. I apologize. Well, one thing I think that we can do better, we have to be more intentional on what our message is. Representative Driskell made mention of it. I think that we are continuously doing the same thing that has happened back in 1980, 1990, and those same strategies are just not working now. And so I think we need to be more intentional about that. But also, and I'll say again, the same thing I made mention of when we were talking about the churches, that we have to make sure that we are engaging people year-round. It's so often that when we are campaigning or when election time comes, candidates are really only engaging candidates 9 months before election. What happened to right after the election? I believe that elections happen right after the other election. And so we need to be making sure that we're engaging people around that same time. And the last thing when it comes to black voters, black people are not monolithic. And we're also not simple-minded. So stop treating us as such. And so I believe that people who are campaigning have to make sure they realize that our issues are just that important. That as you are addressing those issues, as you are making sure that when you're sitting down with your policy team, don't allow black people to be your afterthought. We need to be the first people you think about when you're creating those things.
Right. And black people can do more than be grassroots, and black people can do more than be black outreach. We can do all the stuff. Comms, finance, manager, head of all.
Can y'all, okay, I'm gonna just do this so y'all can see me. I'm gonna say this, and I know some people may feel away, but I'm gonna start with, I'm gonna say trust black women. And for me, when I say trust black women, it's not just trust us to do, as Representative Shaw said, black outreach or grassroots stuff, but trust them when they're telling you the things that they're seeing on the ground. Trust them when they're telling you the things that they see with their coalition partners. Trust them when they're telling you, hey, guess what? You throwing us, to $100 grand at 2 weeks before a primary is not working, because we have black women who are in this room right now who have been organizing, who have been saying the thing, and they have not been listened to. So don't come listen to us after the fact that we lose an election, and then you want to call us the next day and say, what happened? Because a lot of us got those calls in this room. So you need to trust us beforehand, and then when you trust us, you need to pay us what you pay them to go.
uplift, actually, I know she donated her time, but Representative Angie Nixon is the political director for the Florida Democratic Party, and that's a really big deal. The point being that matters who's in the room when decisions are made, okay? It matters who's in the room. And then the other point I wanted to uplift, oh, I'm sorry, I know better than this, stand up. The other thing I wanted to uplift. I had the opportunity to speak recently with a black woman who helped lead the efforts in Georgia and flip that state blue, because I really wanted to understand what it is that they did. And what she shared with me is that everybody got focused on the voter registration numbers, which were really impressive what they did in Georgia. But the story that is not told is the education piece. And she shared with me that when you register a new voter, how many touches it takes. It takes like 20 touches from the time you register them to get them to the poll. And then she also shared with me that for black voters in particular, sometimes there's a lot of embarrassment around not understanding the mechanics of how to vote. And that shows up particularly with our black men, who may not want to admit that no, they don't have a plan to vote. They don't know where the polling place is. They're afraid if they go there and their signature doesn't match, they might be rejected. These are not complex problems that I'm sharing with you. There are direct solutions to them. So if we really want to see voter turnout in the black community in the way that we need to, it's engagement. But to drill down a little bit more on what that means, it means voter education. And that's not as sexy, right? It's talking about how many people we registered to vote. But that is what we absolutely have to do to transform this state. And it starts and ends with the black community.
Amen, amen. So I'm going to talk as an accomplice to black women and to black communities. I am a person of color, but I'm never going to know what it's like to be black. So I do what I can to put myself in your shoes and to be intentional in showing up, not when it's campaign season, but showing up 24/7. District 47 is home to a historic black community called Hannibal Square. It was the labor of Hannibal Square that built Winter Park. There has not been a black city commissioner in Winter Park since 1892. And I have been doing my part to support leaders in the black community in Hannibal Square as they fight for new representation on the city council. Right now it's at-large members, so it's really hard for a person of color to win in Winter Park. So we've been pushing for single-member districts, which, by the way, can be controversial to some of the folks in Winter Park. But for me, as an accomplice, as someone who represents what is a majority white district, it is my responsibility as a person of color, as an ally, or what I like to say accomplice, to help uplift these issues and help folks that typically might not understand these experiences value the importance of fighting for these experiences. And that's why I'm proud to endorse folks like Monique Borrell, because I know that representation matters, and I have to use whatever power I have to lift up those black women, to lift up those new faces who never been given a chance because folks doubted their abilities or doubted their experience. And so we have to be intentional as allies at the same time. This work, and the last thing I'll say is, as Democrats, we have to deliver. We can't just talk platitudes and talk rhetoric. We have to actually solve these problems, which I'm sure we'll talk about more throughout this weekend.
One of the things that I've seen as a statewide candidate is the fact that there are so many candidates and office holders currently that just need a real support system and a real sense of encouragement. I think much more in the concept of family than I used to when it comes to politics and when it comes to helping or encouraging people who are in office. But what we often, I think, as Democrats, and the Republicans are really good at this, they're really good at developing, mentoring, encouraging their talent. And paying them and resourcing them and helping them and getting. And one of our dreams, had we been successful, was how we didn't just get to know and build relationship with great candidates across the state, but really became a part of the family. We mentioned here in Orange County, Monique Borrell, who is a case study if you care about criminal justice reform and social justice and incarceration rates. She's doing the work on the local level. But then, if you look at areas of the state right now where we're seeing great progress, where we're actually making a difference. Do you know Duval, for instance, has a mayor's race in early 2023. Do you know we have a Democrat running for that race who's in the room, Donna Deegan, who can win that election, and can you imagine if Duval is more of a gateway, because we took it, Biden took it, and we need it if we're going to win statewide elections.
We can talk about engaging the black community. I just want to talk about that a little bit, because engaging the black community is not just talking about criminal justice. It's not just talking about mandatory minimums. It's not just talking about stuff like that. Black people want a good job, too. And Black people want the ability to do everything that everyone else does. And it is very pandering. I just want to warn people in this room to come to the Black community and all you want to talk about is driver's license, suspensions, and criminal justice. So when you were talking about engaging with us, we're people too that have all kinds of needs and wants, just like everybody else, and child support. Right? We are more than just those issues. I just want to. I appreciate it. Well, you want to shut the door because when we start passing the plate around, we'll have somebody stand at the door like Black Church for real. I appreciate that. I want to talk to Representative Eskamani first, because this is your area. We're going to talk about reproductive rights, because what's going on right now is what everyone in this room knew would happen if those people were appointed to the Supreme Court of the United States. We all knew this. Despite what you say in the Senate that Roe versus Wade is settled law, we knew exactly what would happen is what's happening right now. Representative Eskamani, I want you to talk a little bit just about what's going on, what it means, how important it is.
Well, I'm taking off my mask for this one, and I'm going to need more than 90 seconds, so... Yeah, I mean, things are seriously at stake right now for access to a safe and legal abortion. And to be clear, this is not just about reproductive health or rights, it's about reproductive justice. Knowing that when abortion bans happen in states like Texas, there will be people who can still access an abortion. There are going to be the folks with money who can leave the state, go to California, go to New York, but it's going to be predominantly poor people, people of color, folks in rural communities who will have nowhere to go. And so we need to be out loud about abortion. We cannot be afraid to talk about abortion. And we also have to remember that the history of birth justice, which is the ability to decide how, when to become a parent, how to give birth, is actually grounded in the history of Black women doulas, who used to be some of the primary providers of helping folks give birth. And it was very much the medical institutions that pushed out Black women from this field, so this industry of medicine can become more like a business, more led by white men, and really change the ability to not only access contraception and give birth, but to change reproductive services as a whole into more of a money-driven machine versus one of compassionate care. And so now we have all this stigma that also surrounds abortion. So we got to be ready here in Florida. There's a 15-week abortion ban that was already heard in the Supreme Court of the United States this past week. Florida lawmakers have filed a version of House Bill 167. It's a version of Texas Senate Bill 8, and it's filed by a person of color, Representative Webster Barnaby from Volusia County. So let that sit in. He's a Black man who filed this bill, and I say that because in our communities, and I speak as an Iranian American, there's a lot of stigma we have to overcome within our communities. But the reality is that 1 in 4 American women have had an abortion in this country, so we have to share our stories. We have to lift up those who share their stories and make sure that directly impacted people lead the conversation this legislative session, every day in between. So let's keep fighting. We have a lot of work to do, but I have a lot of trust in the women who serve in the Democratic Caucus of leading this charge, like Rep. Skidmore, Rep. Woodson, Rep. Hinson, Rep. Williams. We have a lot of badass women, if you will, that are going to be leading this charge, but we need your help to do it.
He may be my color, but not my kind. So, Representative Rayner, Nixon, you want to jump in on this women's choice issue? It's a big one. You can't donate all your time, girl. You got it.
So first of all, I just want to say that abortion is healthcare. And, I speak from the lens, and I legislate being a Black mom, having been a Black single mom for a long time, and just knowing that Black women are 4 times more likely to have negative birth outcomes. And so I speak from that lens, and it's really important for us as Black people. We oftentimes we come from a place of faith. We need to start having those uncomfortable conversations, right? Especially because, as Representative Eskamani said, 1 in 4 women have had abortions. So that means Black women have abortions, right? And you want to get real, like some Black preachers' kids have abortions, right? And so, like, we have to. But no, it's really important for us to to have that conversation around it, and it is a matter of, at times, life or death, right? And so we can't really stigmatize people, a woman and her right to choose what to do with her body. Right.
Tallahassee, they will tell you a lot of things to do. I don't know what a choice is in Tallahassee other than what a woman can do with her body. That's the one thing they want to legislate. Chris, I'm going to go down the whole panel. I'm going to start with you, though. What are our biggest hurdles in 2022 to get where we need to go and win these elections?
Well, I think hope. We need a big dose of hope right now. I think that the environment is divisive and difficult. And I think, so I was supposed to talk from a faith perspective today. So I'll just suggest, I think a part of our challenge as leaders, as incredible elected office holders, is to continue to bring inspiration and hope, because we're not promised easy times. I ran against DeSantis and this group and Trump. I was often at places across the state where Trump was, and I remember just being incredibly aware of how reckless, how tough, how mean this group of people is. And what scares me is how it's become almost a cult or a cultural phenomenon, where people that you know, that you work with, that you care about, probably people in your family, have somehow fallen under the spell of that Trump-DeSantis cult. And I think our challenge is to recognize this will end. This will end. We have to believe it, we have to see it, we have to imagine it before it happens. Part of that happens on our knees or in our faith communities, to believe that, but then to support the candidates who are courageously out there every day, like these five, bringing great light to the darkness that is the Trump-DeSantis machine.
So in addition to hope, we gotta work, right? And I think it's really important that we also lead with our values and prove to people that when you vote Democrat, your life gets better. At the end of the day, many of our voters, they're thinking about their own self-interest, right? Their pocketbooks. They're thinking about, how am I gonna find that job? How am I gonna feed my family? How am I gonna get my kids to school? And unfortunately, right now, we're in a situation where I don't think a lot of folks realize that when you vote Democrat, your life does get better. And I think, yeah, hell yeah, thank you. I mean, we're here to talk. We're here to talk, right? So let's be real. Right now, we have a difficult daily experience for Floridians. There's property insurance rates going up dramatically. Rent is going up. Affordable housing is impossible to find. Of course, there is concerns about gas prices and inflation and so forth. And a lot of this can get politicized. I get it. But at the end of the day, everyday people are struggling. And they need to be able to look at the White House, look at Tallahassee, and realize that when I vote Democrat, my life gets better. And I think the $15 minimum wage amendment campaign is a great example of that. People voted for the $15 minimum wage last cycle because it was for their self-interest. But that self-interest is tied to collective good. So as Democrats, our message has to be driven to appeal to a self-interest, but how does that self-interest also connect to a collective good? So I would argue that we fight for renters' rights. That's good for one individual person's like, hell yeah, I love renters' rights. But then when you champion that issue, it's good for the whole community. It's good for the collective good. Same thing with corporate greed and corporate accountability. You hold those corporations accountable. One person might like it because it makes them pay their fair share, so their tax doesn't go up, but corporations pay their taxes more. And so that's connected to the collective good.
I hate to do that. No yelling, she says she's back. Representative Driskell, I want to ask you about messaging specifically, because Representative Eskamani brought something very important up. How in a state that supported minimum wage, that supported Amendment 4, won't vote for a Democrat? That's messaging and branding. I want you to kind of talk about what is going on here and how we can get around it.
Absolutely. So I think it's a two-pronged problem. There's an internal and an external. I'll start with the external, which is the messaging piece and how we communicate our values outward to the world. We're Democrats. We talk a lot. Oh my gosh, we talk a lot. We like to explain. And somebody once taught me, if you're explaining, you're not campaigning. And the everyday person doesn't need a dissertation. They want to hear what we stand for quickly and succinctly. And so what we've been working on in the Florida House is a messaging framework that I think is adaptable for the entire state. I would love to see it catch fire. And it's this. All Floridians deserve the freedom to be healthy, prosperous, and safe. Say it with me till you get it. All Floridians deserve the freedom to be healthy, prosperous, and safe. All Floridians deserve the freedom to be healthy, prosperous, and safe. Let me tell you why that works. First, freedom. Americans like that. Voters like that. They don't think that the Democratic Party owns those values. Republicans act like they have a monopoly on it. They don't. We have veterans, we have law enforcement, we have people who died for the right for us to vote. We need to own that narrative. The second piece is that Democrats are not a monolith. You've got progressives, you've got moderates, you've got everybody in between. It's a broad enough framework that we can use it and sound like we're all singing from the same hymnal and wrap our message in around a common framework. The second piece is internal. I wish I had more time on this. We have got to put an end to dim on dim violence. Stop the Democrats. People want to support winners. They want to support a party that looks like they have their stuff together. And oftentimes we don't. We can be our own worst enemy. Stop it, stop it. Now stop litigating in social media. Stop backbiting. We're really taking it to church. Get it together and here so that we walk out there. We have a unified front that people will want to get behind. That's what we got to do, y'all.
I'm sorry, but we have another person running for governor here in our great state, and that's State Senator Annette Tadeo. Go ahead.
Thank you, guys. I am Annette Tadeo, and I'm running for governor, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for many of you, because many of you made sure that we turned the seat from red to blue after a certain senator who had to resign. And I am not going to give him the time of the day to say his name because he deserved to resign. But we were able to turn a seat from red to blue because we created a coalition of voters needed to win. We brought everybody together, and I became the first Latina Democrat in Florida history to serve in the Senate because of you, because you knocked on doors, you made phone calls, and we're going to do it again. We're going to make history, and we are going to elect Val Demings and Annette Tadeo. Thank you.
I like getting moderated much better than you get cut off, but I appreciate it, Senator. We appreciate you staying within the time limit. You get some points for that, because that's all I appreciate. Thank you. Jeff, Senator Shevrin Jones, I'm sorry, talk to us about what our biggest hurdles might be.
Yeah, I did write my notes down.
Well, first of all, that's not you. Go ahead.
He just took 15 of my seconds.
It's your Founders Day. I'm going to let you get away with it.
I appreciate that. Well, listen, here's what I believe. And I did write down 3 points. The first thing is, the Republicans are not our problem. And we continue to campaign off of that.
Amen.
And we do not put our message out there and what we can do for people. Because truth be told, the average person don't know the high-level stuff that's happening on Twitter. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we're taking our message of what we can benefit and what we can do for people and making sure that's making it into their households. The second thing is we have to begin to support black electeds. Especially black elected officials who have to go back home and defend when people don't understand the process, when they think what they did is our fault. And so we have to make sure that you're fighting for your black elected officials, not just in Tallahassee, not just in DC, but also your local elected officials. The third thing is, we have to support local elections, because that thing works from the ground up. Pew did a research and said that 62% of the people don't even know who the hell their state rep or congressperson is. And so therefore, we need to make sure we are supporting people like the Miramar commissioners and Pembroke Pines commissioners and everything else, because those are the individuals who work their way up to your state reps and to your congressional members. And my last thing is this, and this is for my black folk, because this is the Black Caucus room. If they can't get and be vocal in our fight, we can't join theirs.
Y'all heard that? Don't be surprised. You heard it. Representative Rayner.
Well, my God, on today, I don't know how to come back from behind that. I would say the biggest hurdle I think that we're facing, we need to meet people where they're at. And I think we've all said a variation of that. And when I talk about meeting people where they're at, there was a story someone told me, I think Senator Jones was with me, that Republicans are knocking on doors right now as we speak. They're not asking people for anything, but asking them how they feel about it. And then they're building a campaign about how they feel about those things and putting those ads on social media and targeting people. We knock on doors during the summer and the primary. It's hot. I will knock on the door when it's hot, but I don't want to. And so, I say that to say, if our service of people is not rooted in love, is not rooted in liberation, that you will knock on doors throughout the year, that you will find out what people care about and build campaigns around it and build policies around it. It has to be a year-round thing, and not just with our hands out, but giving folks something, saying, listen, how can I make your life better? Intentionally listening, and that intentionality is rooted in love and service of people. And so that's all I got to say, because they said everything else, Jesus.
Well, and you know, we've all probably been on a lot of panels where the question is, what do we do with the black vote, and how do we, you're literally hearing the answers on how to address this. Please use it. Representative.
I mean, y'all said everything. And so I would just to reiterate, we just have to be active and engaged year round. As I stated, this affordable housing crisis is something that is so big, and it's affecting us. It's affecting black people, and like, we're getting hit hard, right? And so if we have the opportunity, right? So I'm hosting a workshop where I'm partnering with realtors, again, teaching people how to have access to first-time home buyers programs, because there's sometimes people don't know, right? I think we need to get that information out to people, right? And then start having conversations with people. As Rep. Rayner stated, what is it that people need? People ain't gonna vote if they worried about what the lack of food in their refrigerator. People aren't gonna vote if they're worried about the fact that they don't have a job. So I'm out here. We need to be out here as elected officials. We need to be out here as the Black Caucus, helping people connect to resources to get a job, right? Connecting them to resources to get affordable housing, connecting them to resources to get affordable child care, and then also celebrating the wins. Listen, I was told, you know, I'm a little outspoken, a little too transparent, right? But I'm an organizer at the end of the day, right? I may not have been able to pass bills, but we were able to force the governor's hand when it comes to making sure that he gave us that $820 million for those independents. Also, we forced his hand to make sure that he applied for that $2.3 billion of federal funding that he left on the table, and we need to celebrate that. They are getting all this disinformation. It ain't misinformation. They're spreading lies, right? So we need to spread the gospel and the truth that's coming out of Tallahassee and the work that we're putting in, and people are going to vote our way. We're going to get people active and engaged, and they're going to turn out. But we have to spread the word.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to tell the time people so I'm in trouble. We're doing a wrap-up, so I gave you that extra 30 seconds. Representative Rayner, you have 30 seconds to close again, because I thought the last one was closed, but go ahead.
I was like the preacher that's here.
As I
take my seat. First off, I want to thank everyone that's in this room for being in this room, and especially the Black folks that are in leadership and that are doing this work, because I know that it can be very hard to do this. I know that sometimes when we're not getting the support that we think that we need. Also, I want to thank the Black elected officials that are in this room. The people, y'all can stand, go ahead and stand up. Go ahead and stand up. Sheila, go ahead. Sheila, go ahead. Don't do that. Go. We need to break it. Hold on. But I want to thank them because as the points have been made, while people in the community come to us, we're fighting these fights with people who care not about our lives. We're fighting these fights with people who don't see the value in black and brown folks. And so I want to honor them because I know many of them are working tirelessly to do the things that they need to do on behalf of our people. And we know that when our people are free, that everybody else will be free.
First of all, to my black people, I love y'all. I'm gonna say that first. Yes, sir. But you know, I'm gonna use this opportunity. Rayner, she took my notes and recognized the black elected officials. Yeah, she talked about me. But I do want to recognize there are people, black organizations that are actually doing the work. We're Eagle Ground. To talk about the work that we're talking about, it's black folks doing it, and we need to go out now. And we need to put our money behind them to help us win. Don't go out, start your own thing. Why don't you help these people spread the word around the state of Florida to get the work done? Thank y'all for doing the work. I appreciate y'all.
This has been the best panel. I don't know how I'm gonna top this today. I've really enjoyed myself. Thank you, Sean, for being a great moderator. Thank you to my fellow panelists. So, you know, you heard me talk a lot about messaging is something that I've developed a passion around. I think it is a movement that we need within the party, within the state of Florida, sure, but within the entire Democratic Party. If you want to be a part of that movement that we're trying to build in getting our messaging together as a party and trying to make it more inclusive and on point with voters, please stay in touch. You can go to our website, howweallwin.com, sign up, stay engaged, hear about what we're doing next. We did a conference this past fall. Oh, she said stop already? That worked on the messaging and organizing for statewide races. Our next one will be all about voting rights and really trying to get prepared for these elections in 2022 and how to expand the electorate. It's a movement. It's going to take all of us. I'm Fentrice Driskell. If I can ever help you, reach out on social media. I'm here to help you. Don't hesitate to call on me. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, everyone, for having us, for facilitating this fantastic conversation, necessary conversation. My only closing thought is, for so many of our DCs and Dem clubs that are out here, think about what are the issues in your localized community that impact folks, and how can you champion that issue, even if you don't have incumbents in your area. I know we have some red counters in this space, so you're thinking, how do I leverage this without actually having elected officials that I can lean on? Just know that DCs, you can host an eviction diversion workshop. And you can use your GeoTV skills that you use to get people out to the polls to come to your workshop. So think about those issues that are impacting at a local level and be a champion of that. Be branded as problem solvers, to echo the messaging points that Rep. Driskell outlined, and don't get distracted by the opposition. They want us to talk about these culture wars, focus on solving those problems.
I'll just wrap this up. I'm glad you're not tired of me after all these years. Mr. President, thanks for having me once again. I would say, I've learned something pretty simple after doing this across Florida. The power of the Democratic Party is represented in the black community and the black caucus. You ultimately will decide in big elections who our candidates are, and you have some of the greatest talent in the state of Florida. One funny story to end with. When we were 18, Fentrice Driskell, I was just listening to her talk about the messaging of the party. We went to college together, and I made the decision I was going to run for student body president, and I got down on my knees and convinced Fentrice to be my vice president. Now, we sadly lost by 100 votes, but I knew I had chosen wisely, Sean, because the next year, Fentrice ran, and she won by about 1,000 votes. So I say the power is in the talent of this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. I hope you listen. You heard a mighty word today, and I hope you take it back to your communities and listen. Thank you.
Thank you for the panelists. And then on behalf of the DBCF, I just want to touch on a couple bullet points that I took away from the day since Rep. Rayner gave the invitation. Number one was trust our black women. I've learned to comply when a woman speaks. So I'm not afraid to follow question at the end says specifically black men. We didn't hear that, right? So since Rep. Rayner put that invitation out, I'm looking for all my black sisters to give me that right message to help our black men step up, right? Because we know the women are already carrying the weight. We, throughout this whole state of Florida, have to find a way to get more African-American males to the ballot box. If we can do that, 2022 will be a hell of a lot easier on all of us. So thank you all for coming. I enjoyed this panel. It was great. You guys enjoy the rest of your
Okay, that was this past Saturday. I actually streamed it live while it was going on, but I wanted to rebroadcast it because I think it's important during these times. That was called Let's Talk, Real Issues, Real Impact, Real Action Needed. So with that being said, it kind of speaks for itself. Again, I work with them. They hire me. I said earlier at the beginning of the show that I wish that I could work and do some stuff for the Republicans to hear what they have to say in their meetings, because when I hear some of the things and challenges that they're facing, it's hard to believe that people think the way that they do and they see people the way that they see them and how they see themselves. It is very scary. I won't get into that. That's a different show. But this is Charles Morris. I am here every Monday at 7 p.m. This is the Journey 2020. We ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure that you like us on Facebook. We appreciate all of that. And we got some more stuff coming up later. But for questions, comments, and concerns, you can always hit us up with an email right here at thejourney2020@gmail.com. Also coming up, don't forget to be on the lookout for the Pastors Roundtable. The Pastors Roundtable, we're going to be talking about how we have taken Christ so much out of Christmas. Is that not true? Some of us have no idea what Christmas is about. That's a whole nother show. We have no clue. We don't even open the door to what Christmas is about. We open presents. We don't open the door to what Christmas is about. You have no present for me? That's what Christmas is about for most of us. For a lot of us. It's crazy. But coming up, I'm going to have Val Deming's speech. She spoke this past weekend. Very powerful. And what else we got going on? Well, just want to say, hope that you're enjoying the holidays, that you're doing what's necessary doing, and that you're being safe, you're being wise, using some common sense. That would be good. And again, this is the Journey 2020, where we come to you every Monday at 7 p.m. And hope that you're staying safe. And again, for questions, comments, or concern, you can hit us up right here. All right. That, again, was the Black Caucus. Well, actually, it was the Democrats that was here in Orlando this past weekend. It was called Let's Talk, Real Issues, Real Impact, Real Action Needed. I think so. Anyway, I'm out of here. And remember, the word comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of the Lord. Everyone, enjoy the rest of the week. You be blessed.